Hey y'all, thanks so much. Hey y'all, boy. Hey y'all, that's country. Anyway, kind of says a negative. What am I trying to say? Spit it out, woman. Okay. Hey y'all, thanks so much for clicking into this video. My name is Lori. On this channel, Landlord Life, I talk about all the adventures in being a buy and hold real estate investor. I own only single family homes and I use them as rentals, and I do manage all my rentals myself. So this channel is all about my adventures as a landlord and my landlord life. Thanks so much for being here. Today I want to tell you about the three very most important things that I've learned being a landlord. So let's just get right to it. Now, the third most important thing that I have ever learned as a landlord is that it is absolutely critical to do the right things first before you ever even move a tenant into a house. Now, a lot of people are like, what does that even mean? Let me tell you. If you buy a property that needs rehab before you put a tenant in it, which is all the houses I've ever bought, have a full detailed inspection done of that property when the rehab is done, but before you place a tenant in it. Have every single outlet in that house tested. Have every single plumbing fixture run for a while and tested. Have every single toilet flushed repeatedly and tested. Have everything done up front before you put a tenant in a house. And let me tell you why. Have you ever heard the cliche, the phrase, if you don't use it, you lose it? Well, that is true for houses as well. Most of the houses that I buy have sat vacant for quite a while before I get them, tear them down to the studs and rehab them and get them back up to a livable standard. And there are just some things you can't know when no one is living in the house. But by getting a really detailed, in-depth, comprehensive inspection of the house, you can find out as many of the little irritating things that might exist in a property before a tenant moves in as you possibly can. And that's what you want to do. You want to reduce the possible issues that your tenant might experience when they first move into the house as much as you possibly can. The key to a good tenant-landlord relationship is that the house is in good shape, that the tenant's expectations are met when they move into the house. And one of the most important ways I found to do that is to have every single electrical outlet and electrical fixture tested to make sure it's completely functional before a tenant moves into the house, and have every single plumbing fixture tested to make sure it's also completely functional before it moves into a house. Run that HVAC unit. If it's hot out, make sure it cools really well and stays cool. If it's cold out, make sure it warms really well and stays warm. Make sure everything is working the best you possibly can before you ever even have a tenant move into the house. When a tenant moves into your property, if their first experience in the property is negative, even if it's a little thing, it kind of sets the tone that you have to do a lot of work to make up for while they're living in the house. Now, I'm not saying that you can anticipate or find every single thing that could possibly go wrong in a property before anybody lives there. That's just not possible. But if you do your best, really make the effort to make sure the property is in great condition before anybody ever moves in, then you are most likely setting yourself up for success when somebody does move in. So that's the third most important thing I have found as a landlord, is to do your very best to make sure the property is in great condition before a tenant ever moves into the house. That takes us to the second most important thing. And that second most important thing that I know to be true in being a landlord is to let professionals do professional work for your tenants and your rental properties. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean, if you do have an electrical issue, like maybe the exhaust fan in the bathroom quits working, send an electrician to deal with that issue. A lot of us are perfectly capable of changing out a bathroom exhaust fan. But let me tell you something your tenant does not want to see. Your tenant does not want to see their landlord DIYing projects in the house. They just don't. They want to know that the house is going to be well taken care of, and they want to see a professional coming to take care of those things. Does it cost you a little bit more money? Yeah, it absolutely does. It may cost you just a little bit more money, but let me tell you why it's so worth it. If any issues arise, you have that third party between you and your tenant to address those issues. And that's important because you want to do everything you can to maintain a good relationship with your tenant. And if there is an issue, say that exhaust fan rattles, they're not going to be mad at me. They're not going to be mad at you, the landlord, because the exhaust fan rattles. They're going to be irritated with the electrician. That is an easy fix. You call the electrician, they come back out, they tighten it up, it doesn't rattle anymore. And that tenant knows that as their landlord, you are acting on their behalf. You are serving their needs and you're getting stuff done for them. If you're the one that goes out and puts that exhaust fan up yourself and you leave and they call you 3 days later because that exhaust fan is rattling, they think you're cheaping out. You're a cheap landlord that just wants to DIY everything. You don't care about them, you don't care about the property, and they're not likely to want to stay in your house for very long. So the second most important thing that I've learned as a landlord is to not ever find myself in that situation to start with. Send a professional to handle those professional projects that just are going to need to be done from time to time and save yourself the headache. Now that leaves us with the number one most important thing I've learned in being a landlord. But before I get to that, let me tell you what I thought being a buy and hold real estate investor was going to be all about. Now, I thought being a real estate investor was going to be mostly about having the right property on my balance sheet. And I'm not saying that's not important. That is a really critical part of being a successful buy and hold real estate investor. But it's not the number one most important thing in being a buy and hold real estate investor and owning rental properties. That number one most important thing that I have learned as a landlord is that I am in the people business. If you don't take anything else from this video about being a successful buy and hold real estate investor that manages properties themselves, about being a landlord, take this with you. Know this. You are in the people business. You're not in the real estate business. You're not in the landlord business. You're not in the management business. You are in a people business. Because without people that want to live in your property and pay you rent and want to continue renewing leases with you over and over and over, year after year after year, you are not going to make very much money as a buy and hold real estate investor. You're just not easily going to find long-term success as a buy and hold real estate investor. So the most important thing I have found in being a landlord is that if you put the people stuff first, all the other stuff falls into place. So that third most important thing about being a buy and hold real estate investor, making sure all the systems in the property are working really, really well before you ever bring a person into the house, is really about people. Because what you're doing is making sure that your new relationship with a new tenant starts off in a good place. And the number one most important thing you need to know as a landlord is that you are in the people business. So by doing that, you're protecting that relationship with the people who are going to be buying you houses. And the second most important thing about being a landlord, sending professionals to take care of projects in the house when there are tenants in the house, is also about the people. Protect that tenant-landlord relationship by sending those professionals and getting things done right. Having that third party taking care of all those issues puts you and your tenant on the same team, on the same side. If any issues do arise from whatever circumstance caused you to send a professional out to the house to start with, you and your tenant are acting from the same side. And when your tenant knows you're on their side, they are very easy to work with. They're very agreeable. They want to work with you. They know you're acting in their best interest, and then they tend to reciprocate that. In my experience, if a tenant knows I'm acting in their best interest, they act in my best interest as well. And that is key to having a long-term successful tenant-landlord relationship. So the number one thing, most important thing that I've learned as a landlord, and I hope you take with you today, is that being a landlord is a people business. It's not a property business, it's not about houses, it's not about contracts, leases, whatever, all that stuff. If you decide to invest in buy and hold real estate and be a self-managing landlord, then you know you are in the people business. And just knowing that up front will set you up for success moving through the process. So that's it. Those are the three most important things that I've learned in my years of being a landlord. I hope you found some value in these little tidbits I've shared today. If you did, please hit that like button down below, let me know. And if you didn't, please hit the dislike button. Let me know that just as well. That is just as useful information as anything else, right? So if you like it, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, hit that dislike button, but don't leave without clicking a button. If you'd like to hang out and see some more landlord life adventures, please do hit subscribe down below. I'd love to hang out with you. I have another channel called Boat Life Lori. If you'd like to see the boat life and what it's like owning a small yacht, everything that goes along with it, let me tell you, There's a lot that goes along with that, good and bad, on the Texas Gulf Coast. Please hop over to the Boat Life Lori channel and check that one out. I'll leave a link down below. And then I also have a third channel, Life with Lori, where I do a lot of DIY and organizing, planning, travel, trips around the world. We're getting ready to head over to Asia, and I'd love to share that with you. So if that's interesting to you, please do hop over to Life with Lori. Also, link down below, and we can hang out over there. Now, if you want to be a superhero, subscribe to all 3 channels, because that would be amazing. Now, that's it for today. Until I see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.